Good morning. Welcome back to ONV's, A Financial Pillar. I'm Ryan Leopard, and joining me today are my friends JJ Foster from Lake City Bank
Good morning.
and Terrence Bush from PNC.
Good morning.
How are we doing, gentlemen?
Doing pretty good. Quick disclaimer: all thoughts and opinions are of my own origin, and in no way, shape, or form represent my employer.
Nice. Gotta love working for a big bank, right?
Gotta love it.
Well, today we're going to talk to you a little bit, about basic banking and savings, right? So I just kind of want to kick off today's conversation with just kind of talking about, trust in banks, right? I have a bank account. I'm assuming both you gentlemen bank well, right? How long have you had a bank account? What age were you when you first got yours?
Probably about 10 years old.
10 years old?
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I think I was probably about 12 or 13 when I got my first savings account.
Yep, around the same age. Yep.
Around the same age? Good. So it's obviously we all were started young, right?
Yep. It was because of my mother. Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you think about it, they used to have the little coins. You put the coins in the folder, and once it got filled up, you take it down to the to your bank.
That's how I got started too. Bank right down the street from us, and mom and dad took me down there and opened up a savings account, and then back in those days, I could walk at a very young age down to the bank with whatever money I earned from paper routes or whatever, and just deposit it in the bank.
Yep.
Right. So, but with our target audience out there, inner city community, minority community, understanding that there is a lot of times when it comes to bank a lack of trust. Would you gentlemen agree?
Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Where do you think that mistrust comes from?
I think it's more of a pass down through the ladder. I think it's more of a generational thing, of course. Growing up when I was a child, a lot of people lived by pay by cash, never use credit, never use a bank account, because if you use a bank account, then people are going to take your money from you. They're going to tell you when you can get your money. They're going to tell you what you can and cannot do with your own money, of course. But if you use your own funds, you use your own cash, no one can tell you what you can and do with that. But over the years, you start to learn that that's not always the best course of action, of course, especially how we're moving towards an electronic economy and how cash isn't really the most universal form now. Of course, you can use a lot of your money electronically, of course, especially when it comes to getting car loans or applying for mortgages or anything like that. Having a bank is going to allow you to have those documents to prove that you've had consistent deposits into your account or that you make a certain amount of money. These are things that you're going to be able to need to prove when you're applying for any offers of credit. And that's where that bank account can also come in to be, pretty much an important factor in your life.
On top of the trust, I'd like to add as well the relationship. A lot of times, going into a financial institution can be an intimidating thing. And when you talk about a certain faction of folks who, as Terrence has said, stuff has been passed down, bad experiences, lack of trust. And then we've talked about it on this here panel. A lot of stuff when you talk about finances hasn't been discussed with people at a young age. So I walk into an institution and I get somebody looking down on me or talking at a level that I can't understand. People have a tendency to stay away or shy away from that.
Okay. Very good, very good. So, Terrence, I'm a couple years removed from the retail environment, right? You're currently in the retail environment. Do you still do you run into that still
Yes.
to this day?
All the time.
with customers or those just coming in to do a transaction, cash check, something like that, but they may not have an account. They're hesitant to open an account because of that distrust.
Yep, I run into that a lot across various age groups as well. We've had some older clients come in that were very much use cash only, never have a bank account. Recently, just a couple of days ago, I helped open an account for an older gentleman, and he was telling me about how he would always use cash, and he would just set his cash to the side because he never wanted to work with a bank. And, as I was discussing that with him, I learned to find out exactly why he was that, and it was that specific reason right there.
So that was my question for you is how do you get somebody that's an older gentleman who has never or has not had a bank account in a long period of time, how did you get him to open the account? What did you say to him?
So typically how the conversation usually goes is I try to just ask open-ended questions so they're doing majority of the talking, so it's not just me. I like to discover what type of needs they do have, of course. So I'm asking them, well, what brings you into that? What made you choose PNC? And based off your financial journey, where are you currently at where you need an account? What's the purpose of you wanting to officially open an account? It's been so many years. what is officially bringing you to the bank. Of course, that's where, they start to tell me, well, I want to have some place where I can save my money, or, I want to be able to earn interest on some things. I'm not really earning any interest when I'm just dealing with cash. And I'm like, of course, banks and credit unions, and both alike, if they're able to pay you interest on the money that you currently keep with them, why not take advantage of that situation, especially with how inflation is working, so things like that. So if I'm telling you that, by you working here, you're starting a relationship with us, there are a number of products and services that we have to help you take advantage of your financial health. Of course, when it comes to maximizing your funds or even increasing your savings, banks are there to help you along that journey, of course. So being able to tell them about all the benefits that we do offer and everything else that's out there for them, I think that's pretty much what helps build that trust.
I got a question for you. That very individual, you convinced that older gentleman to place his money in the bank. So now his money is in the bank. How do you convince him to utilize the online services and modern day banking right now? Because I know I have a mother, and she will not do anything online. She swears by it. Don't send me anything via text. Don't send me anything online. How do you handle a customer like that?
In the real world, we cannot force anybody to use our online services. Of course, that is a self-service thing. If they have no interest in downloading the mobile app or utilizing any of our online features, that's just something that we have to deal with. So, but also what that also does is that helps build the relationship with us, because that means anytime he needs something, he's going to stop back. He's going to come back to see somebody in person. So that's really what helps build the relationship. Of course, building that rapport with somebody, knowing that you can trust. So that means down the line when he knows he needs something else, he's going to come back to me specifically, of course. I feel like that's important in building the trust and building that relationship, of course. But when it comes to online services, it's kind of a hit or miss. Some people want to get intertwined with it, and some people just don't.
Were you successful getting him with online banking?
He was actually one of those people that did not want to be intertwined with it. So of course.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there, JJ. So that's something I ran into a lot when I was in the retail environment, too. And I would just use, example, true life example for myself is, listen, if I can teach my mom how to do it, I can teach you how to do it as well. And then I would always just approach it from the safety and security standpoint of being able to always monitor it, seeing transactions on a daily basis. You're not waiting for your statement to come out. And by the time your statement gets into you in the mail, it's already 2 weeks old. Now, if you had fraud or something on your account, you don't know about it right away. You've waited all this time, right? So just approaching it from that standpoint, because I truly believe in online banking. I truly believe it's a more safe and secure way rather than having statements come to you, keeping registers and all that other stuff with it. So I just offer, let me help you with it, right? Let me get you online. Let me just show you. If at the end of the day you're not comfortable with it and you feel it's not for you, great. But I'm confident in the fact that once you get over that mental block of it's technology and you just let me show you the ease of it, you'll love it. And I had a lot of success with that. Can't say I was 100% with it, but yeah. I mean, it was a very successful approach.
I was going to say, that sounds good and very easy, but again, we talk about a history of mistrust, but now I come to that establishment and I've got that relationship, as Terrence said. I've got folks that, they want to walk in, they want to see, they want to talk to somebody, and it makes them feel like, hey, I know my money is there, and I've got that relationship. The relationship is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationship is definitely something I want to touch on in this. You guys have, everything we've said so far, relationship has been brought up in that. From that standpoint, though, if you're talking from a mistrust issue, what better way to check me, right, or check the bank than to know every second, every minute, every day, you can go on and check the balances. Nobody's taking your money. Rather than waiting a week, rather than waiting a few weeks to go in there to then check it. Right? I'm checking it all the time because I don't trust you. That's another way to approach it. So it's safe to say that we're all in agreement of having a bank, having your money in a bank, safe and secure, is the best way to manage your money, right?
Most definitely.
So from there, obviously, there's numerous banks, numerous credit unions around. How do we go about choosing the best bank, right, for us? Thoughts?
Oh, okay. You got.
I'll go ahead. I'll pass. Right.
I would. I mean, basically, banks are like anything. Just like I talked about, that relationship. Go where you feel comfortable. You don't have to go somewhere if somebody is talking down at you or kind of frowning. But you go where you have that relationship. To Terrence's point, I mean, there's some folks that come to bank every day. They look. Our bank is very inviting. Hey, it's almost like a family that they're there. So when you go around, you want to check on what kind of fees somebody has, what kind of minimums, all that stuff. in addition to, is it somewhere that I'm comfortable? That's what I would start.
Yeah, I
Terrence?
definitely will agree. If anything, I could compare it to car shopping. When you know it's time to go get a vehicle, you know you're not just going to go to one car lot and just pick the first thing that you see. And just like JJ said, it's definitely about what your banking requires. You know, if you're somebody that deals with a lot of checks, you know, you want to make sure that there's not a high check cashing fee, or, you know, your checks are going to be available within like the next day, not have like a 3 to 4 day hold on them, of course. It all depends on what you need. Like if you get direct deposit, of course, you can get direct deposit into a credit union or bank account. But if you're dealing with checks, that's where things start to come in, because different financial institutions have different policies for checks as well too. I know mine does as well. But definitely thinking about what you're looking for. If you're looking for a place that's going to treat you like family and always keep you up to date with everything that's changing, or if you're going to be just looking for a place for you to just keep your money, of course, shopping around is going to be the best bet for you, of course. I know like other banks out there like Chase and Star and Lake City, they all do different things.
Yeah.
But
That's what I would say is there's no one bank that's perfect for everybody. If there was, there wouldn't be so many banks and credit unions out there.
Exactly.
Right? So I agree. And I was watching, you know, we talked about banking on previous episodes of the Financial Pillar, and I was reviewing one of those on the way in, and something James said, James was on the set with us last time. There's, you know, when you go into a bank, recognize how they greet you, right? Recognize how they talk to you. Are they warming? Are they welcoming? Do they want your business, right? That's where it kind of starts at, because that's going to build the trust that you need. You got somebody there that wants your business. They're not somebody saying, all right, next, right? And they're just taking one person right after the other for it. And then from there, understanding and knowing what to look for. So JJ kind of mentioned that. What questions do I ask? I've never had a bank account. What information should I know when I'm going to search for it? Okay. The first starting point would be, are there any fees with the account? Because as we could probably all know, pretty much every bank charges a fee. It's just they provide ways to keep those accounts free, right? Everybody thinks, oh, my bank doesn't charge me a fee. Yes, they do. You're just meeting a requirement to avoid that fee, so you're not realizing that fee. So, for example, a lot of banks, you know, if you use your debit card a number of times per month, that probably avoids the monthly service fee on the account. If you have a direct deposit going into your account, a lot of times that avoids the monthly service fee on the account. And then some banks do have like minimal type accounts that there just is no requirement at all to keep it free. But understanding that, asking those questions, because that's the starting point, especially somebody that is living paycheck to paycheck. You don't have $12 extra, you don't have $15 extra to be paying just to have your money in the bank. So find out what the requirements are to avoid a fee on the account, and then determine from there also, is this the right bank for me? Am I going to be able to have a free account here? Right? Anything else, questions, Terrence, that you would say when you go to a bank and you're shopping that you should definitely ask?
I would definitely, even yesterday I had a woman that she got paid in checks. Her employer didn't offer direct deposit, and we have a specific policy around checks. So, you know, the first thing I'm asking, well, how many times a week do you deal with checks? Like, how many checks would you say you come across in a month? She was about 18. I'm like, okay. Typically, you know, with you just opening an account, there are certain stipulations when it comes to check cashing and check deposits. Of course, you know, financial institutions have to do their background checks on all their clients that will be opening accounts, just to make sure that they're not opening the account to commit any criminal activities, of course.
So real quick on that note, when the bank's asking you those questions, it's not because of you. They're required to ask those questions
Yes,
due to
we
government
are
regulations
definitely
and money
required to ask
laundering
those.
reasons. They're not picking you out of the crowd to ask those questions to. It's questions that they're required to ask of all new account openings. Correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Yes.
I think hand in hand too in choosing your bank. And I first was thinking, okay, once I've established my bank, but still, even when you're shopping, what type of account do you need? You know, because to your point, you know, when we're talking minimums and fees, but do I need just a checking account? Do I need a savings account? What are the advantages of a money market? You know, if I have, you know, a large sum that's going to be sitting there for a while, you know, what kind of rates do they have on CDs? So once you've established your bank, now let's figure out, you know, what's the right.
So along those same lines, one of the questions I'd always ask is, how do you plan on doing your banking? Right? What does this look like to you? If you're somebody that you don't have a mode of transportation, right? You're going to need a bank that's within walking distance of you. Something that you can get to an ATM if you need to get cash out. Something you can get to the bank if you need to cash the check. So, you know, while this bank over here, great, they may not have fees or you like it, but it's not reasonable for you to get there when you need it. You might want to find something closer to you. right? So, and then understanding the types of transactions that you're doing. To your point, checks, right? If you're writing a lot of checks, okay, is there cost for these, right? Is there a better way for me to do this? So asking those questions to get an understanding of how they plan on utilizing the account and do their banking also helps you to be able to recommend a type of account, right?
Yes,
Yep.
of course.
Absolutely. So we know what type of account to ask for, or fees, looking for, do I need a checking? Do I need a savings? Another thing to be aware of is when you're talking with somebody, are they just pushing accounts on you, right? Okay, we're going to do this, this, and this without asking the proper questions about what accounts you need, right? So are they just selling you accounts because there's some sort of commission or goals that they're ready to do, and now you got more accounts? In my previous retail environment, we were never incentivized to just push accounts on people. You got commission for the very first account they opened, so we were not there to say, hey, let's just push a bunch of accounts on you. This was always, tell me what you need, right? If you have no need for a savings account, there's no reason at this point in time, there's no reason to open and have more accounts for you to have to manage, because then that can become a problem.
Correct.
Right? If your money's not in the right account, then overdraws happen, fees and things like that. I think also that's where a lot of mistrust comes from, is that you weren't placed in the proper accounts. Now things are happening because you may or may not know how to manage these accounts properly, and the bank's charging you fees, and you're looking at like, well, they're just taking my money, right? I love that one all the time where people come, you're taking my money. Well, no, we're not taking your money. That's a fee because you didn't manage it. So talk to me about the responsibility, right? The responsibility of the customer to manage their account.
So, a good rule of thumb that I like to follow specifically is when I meet someone that clearly has no financial institution knowledge, or they don't know much about banks or credit unions or anything like that. My first thing is to basically get them to talk about themselves. I want them to loosen up. I want to build a small relationship with them, get them talking, because that's going to make it easier for me to ask questions. Once I pretty much find out, I'm like, hey, why are you wanting to open an account today? They talk about direct deposit. They talk about, having a place to keep money so that they can build it up because they maybe want to buy a house or a car later in the future, of course. So I'm like, okay, well, since you're new to like banking and stuff like that, we can start you off with a checking account. Go ahead, get your direct deposit set up, get some money in there. Once you start to see that your funds are starting to grow because you're managing your finances pretty well, I said, I'll reach out to you in probably like 30 days, like 6 months later, just to check in, see how things are going. Of course, if we see that you're making great progress, I said, I'm going to recommend that you come back and open a savings account because I think you're ready to continue on with your financial journey, of course. When I look at it and I think about, am I doing the best thing for the client? There are some people that come in, they know exactly what they want. They know what account tier they want. They know how much interest they want to earn off of that. So it's easier to help those clients because they already have a broad understanding of what financial institutions are. So it's easier for me to be like, this is what I recommend. This is going to be great for you. This is what it's going to do for you. How does that sound? Once I get that confirmation, that's where I know it's okay for me to move forward. If I'm explaining something to a client and I can see that I'm using a language that they don't understand, that's where I'm stopping. I'm like, okay, let me revisit some things that I just said to you. Do you understand this portion of it? Well, could you break that down? I'm like, okay, yeah, of course. I always want to make sure that I'm not just trying to throw them into something that I know that is just going to destroy them financially. I want to make sure that I'm setting them up so they can have a successful future in their financial journey.
Yeah.
And I like that point, and speaks to what you were talking about. If they're just putting you in something, even if I'm already established. Terrence spoke to a new customer coming in and talking to them and putting them where they need to be. I'm an established customer. I might have an account that's going to drop below one of these minimums. Somebody from the bank reaches out and calls and say, hey, you have this account. It's about to drop below our minimum. We're thinking about sliding you over here to the savings where you wouldn't have those fees. So, again, we talk about those relationships. That's something that you want to look at. I think we talked off air, and I told you a situation where I went in to borrow money to buy a car, and they put up my information, and they looked, and they said, hey, well, why would you borrow money to buy a car when you've got a CD here, you've got X amount in the money market, we can give you a low-interest loan. It was much less than the auto payment, and that's what they did. They gave me the cash or the check for the vehicle, bought the vehicle, I had the title in hand, and I'm paying 2% versus 8%. That's the relationship that that you want. I didn't go out looking for that, but they brought it to be.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things when listening to you, Terrence, said I really liked is the follow-up call, right? 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, however long, whatever your process is to follow up on the client. Did you get your debit card? Did you get your check? How's things going for you? Do you have questions with your online banking? Just that follow-up for your banker shows that you got a good one, right? They reached out to you. It wasn't, I'm selling you the product, now I'll move on to the next client, and I completely forgot about you.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Right? And that happens. Just you're not a transaction to them.
Exactly.
You're actually a relationship to them. And I can say to this standpoint from the customer is accept that. Right? You have those people out there like, I don't really want to answer the call. I don't need to talk to my banker about anything. Accept that from the banker because he wants to build a relationship with you. Right? In today's, especially banking world, most banks are moving to everything technology-wise. They're getting smaller branches, less people in there because the current younger generation is doing everything technology-wise. So the way the banks thinks is, well, what do we need all these people in here to service these people for? They can go to these ATMs and do everything they need to. They can do everything from their phones. So from a corporate standpoint, it's more beneficial for the corporation because it's less cost, less overhead for it, right? But they're kind of pushing you out on your own to do your own banking. Mm-hmm. There is no relationship there. I always struggled with that and battled with my previous employer when they had that standpoint because they wanted you telling clients, oh, let me take you out here and show you this. Let me tell you to do this, which that's fine. Let them know the options, but we should still be encouraging, especially I believe our youth, to come into the branch and deal with somebody personally and learn the value of building a relationship, right? If we don't bring them in, if we don't teach them the value of a relationship, they're not going to grow up knowing any different. Would you agree?
I will definitely agree. The stronger the relationship, the easier it is to work with somebody.
Absolutely.
There are clients that I've known since I've started working with the company, and I'll give them a call, and they automatically know who it is based off me saying 2 words. Oh, is this Terrence? Yes, this is me. I'm giving you a call about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Okay, I can come in next Thursday. It's that simple. You know that I'm reaching out to you because there's a benefit for you. If I see that you're earning below average interest rates, I'm giving you a call. If I see that we can give you an upgrade so that you can earn more interest, if I can see that there's something more that we can definitely be doing for you, I'm going to reach out and give you a call. That's what my duty is. Mm-hmm. You're entrusting me to take care of your finances and to let you know when there's a great opportunity for you to earn even more money or do something else. I'm going to reach out. That's what I'm doing. And I tell them every single time after I open an account, you are now officially stuck with me until you either close your account or, I die or something like that.
Yeah, good.
That's great. I mean, when you get relationships and just sitting here and listening to you guys talk, it's funny. There are folks that are of a certain age, and if their pastor says something, it's the gospel. If their doctor says something, it's the gospel. And their banker. You think about those 3 relationships, people want somebody they can trust in those 3 areas. And that's how they live their life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as bankers, we as a banking institution, we should promote that because I think that helps fill that gap when it comes to the trust too. Right? If you don't have any relationship in there, it's easier to distrust your bank. All you see is the negative. Oh, they won't do this loan for me. Or, oh, they charged me a fee. Right? There is nobody there to kind of bridge that gap with the relationship from them to feel like, no, I'm cared about. Right? They actually do care about my financial well-being. They're here helping to educate me, making recommendations on things that I don't know. It always is funny to me because regardless of age, I am usually the mindset like, okay, everybody knows this stuff. They know what a CD is. They know that they should be doing this. So, for example, I'm on the board for my neighborhood association. And I'm just thinking like, the treasurer or the board, they know this stuff. They're all grown adults. They know that there's money there and they should be looking for other options, stuff like that. And it was just recently brought up by an outside party like, hey, have you guys thought about doing this? And it was kind of like, yeah, we haven't. Right. And it was just kind of taken for granted. So that's where I kind of jumped in with my banking expertise and kind of help facilitate that. And, don't take for granted just because somebody's of a certain economic category or age group that they know this stuff or are thinking about it. Right. That's where we come in as the professionals to kind of help bring that to mind and share options that we have to help their financial picture. Right.
That's right. Excellent perspective.
Absolutely. So going back to, one thing I want us to definitely discuss to bridge that gap from trust, because one of the worst things that can happen is, great, I come in, open an account with you, Terrence, you make me feel great. You call me, do the follow-ups, all this stuff, and I'm just loving the bank right now. But, 6 months into it, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I don't manage my account properly, and boom, I get hit with a $35 overdraft fee. My first thought is, the bank's taking my money, right? How do we bridge that gap there? How do you help educate your clients when it comes to what their responsibility is for managing their account and why these fees are in place?
So that one is definitely more along the lines of it's all about how you talk to people. Of course, always express your sympathy for them, of course, even if it's something that they did themselves. Always reassuring the client and let them know that you're here to assist them with whatever that you possibly can. I like to walk through transactions with people. I'm like, this is where, the account went negative, and this is how long it stayed negative. This is why you were charged with this, of course, and that's when I bring up, hey, we do have features and implementations that we can help you set up so that we can prevent this from happening. One being like overdraft protection, setting up low cash mode, getting text alerts, things like that. And then even half the time I'll call people and I'm like, I want you to come in. Let's set up a budget. You're telling me that you're having trouble managing your finances. Let's set up a budget.
A budget, which we talked about last episode, right? Yeah, key to that, to not let that happen again, right? But helping them, I love it what you just said, is helping them understand how they can avoid doing that again. But for a consumer out there listening as well, just a key point for you to understand is that don't be defensive about this, right? This is a relationship. The first thing that can kill a relationship is you calling up and accusing the bank of stealing your money, rather than approaching it from Terrence, there's a $35 fee coming out of my account. What is that? Help me understand that, right? Accepting some accountability. The bank didn't take your money. You made a mistake, right? You made a mistake and manage it. That's fine. In my experience, typically the banks are pretty good with refunding fees within a certain reasonable amount. If you're somebody who habitually does it, well, that's not going to happen all the time, because a fee is in place to kind of encourage you to manage it properly. Because when you overdraw your account and a transaction is still getting paid, well, whose money is that? That's the bank's money, right? You're utilizing the bank's money to pay your bill. There's got to be something there. If there was no penalty for that, everybody would do it, right? So the fee is there to offset the cost, as well as a bank is a for-profit business, right? They're not going to be in business very long to manage your account and give you that person to have a relationship with you if you're overdrawing your account and they're paying all your fees and you don't pay them back, right? They're not charging these things.
Yeah, exactly.
So helping them understand that's a good point. But then educating them, I have no problem refunding this fee for you. Let's just talk about how it happened and how we can avoid it in the future, right? Just having that conversation. But from a consumer standpoint, approach it with respect, not a defensive standpoint, but an educational standpoint. Help me understand how this happened.
And I think this is an excellent time to segue into online banking and mobile banking. It's a great way. Talking budgets, it tracks everything that every expense and transaction that you have is right there at your fingertips on your phone. So you could look at that and utilize that money that you overdrafted. Back in the day, you had a little ledger in the checkbook that you had to use.
And I haven't kept a ledger in probably 20 years.
There you go.
Yes,
now,
people still do it though. Yes,
it's at your fingertips, and you think about all the capabilities of online banking and mobile apps. I mean, you can do investments now, small term investments. $10 is all it takes to do personal investing. Like we said, tracking your transactions, bill pay. You can pay your bills. You can set it up to do automatic payment, as far as what a bill is due. So therefore, you don't have to have any of those late fees. You talked about transportation, not getting to your bank. If I got direct deposit, that money goes into my bank. I can look at my phone. I see it's there. I pay my bills from online banking. I can do everything that I need to do without even going into a bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we were talking before we came on live on the air about, how do you get somebody who's hesitant to the technology and to online banking to do that? And I think, JJ, your point was like, well, the distrust of that. And to go along with that is I would tell somebody that, well, if you distrust the bank, I would want this because I can stay in touch with it on a daily basis. I can view every transaction that's coming in if I wanted to do that, rather than the alternative is wait till you get your statements, which are now 30 days, right? 30 days worth of that. And by the time it gets in the mail, they're probably 2 weeks old. You're finding this out weeks after something happened, or worse, you actually had some fraud on your account, right? Yeah. You're able to find out about it right away rather than waiting weeks or a month to actually catch that issue.
I want to be cognizant of our time, but the trust has switched from not distrust of the bank but distrust of hacking and anything
Yep.
online. So when you talk to elder, that's what they, oh no, somebody will hack my account, and and to their credit, there is a lot of scams going on out there.
Yeah, and that's probably a good finishing standpoint there. We'll pick it up in a couple of weeks here. We talk a little bit more about banking and savings, but on that subject, what I would always tell clients is, typically when I would see fraud with online banking, it wasn't from somebody over in another country hacking into your account. Is it possible? Yes. Very low percentage. Typically, online banking fraud came because you provided your banking information to somebody, whether they tricked you out of it through what we call like phishing emails, which is something for you as a consumer to be aware of. And banks typically do a good job, especially if you have a relationship with a banker, helping you understand how people out there commit fraud. You get an email. It looks like it's from your bank. It's asking you to click on a link. You follow it, and then it asks you to put in your user ID, password, social security number, whatever it asks you to do. A bank's never going to ask you to do that. I guess I can't speak for all of them, but in today's world, I can't imagine any bank sending you an email saying, click on this link to provide your information. That should be an immediate red flag, but people fall for it all the time. So that's not somebody hacking into your account. That's you provided your banking information, your log information to somebody. If you're aware of this type of stuff and you're thinking about it, that limits it. Or it's you provided your banking information to somebody you know, whether that's a spouse, right? A boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister. You were casual with your user ID and passwords and you provided it to somebody else. And now that relationship went sour or they're just stealing from you, whatever the case may be. You provide your information to somebody. It's not somebody in another country hacking into your computer, stealing all your user IDs and passwords, and then getting in there, right? So if we understand how fraud happens and we're cognizant of it, that kind of limits the ability, or I could say chance, that fraud is probably going to happen. But fraud is real, yeah. But there's also other ways, if you don't use online banking, that fraud happens by somebody stealing your statements out of your mailbox, which happens all the time. If you're writing checks a lot, all your banking information's on a check. That's how a lot of fraud happened. Probably, I would say more fraud happens that way than somebody hacking into your computer and getting access to your online, right? So it's actually safer, more secure. You're not sending your banking account information out there every time you write a check, right? So great conversation, gentlemen. That's kind of all we have today. But Terrence, I just want to say, if I was looking for a bank account, I'd come see you. Right.
Well,
you are one of those ones we were talking about, just hearing you speak today about how you interact with your clients, the relationship you try to build, and the follow-up calls is what I love, right? That shows you have somebody that wasn't just transactional based. They actually care about the relationship and build it. And you as a consumer out there, those are the things that you need to look for. Shop the banks, find what's convenient for you, and find that person that wants to build that relationship with you. And if you go in somewhere and you're just not getting that feeling for them, there's plenty of banks and credit unions out there that you can go down the street to, right? Anything you gentlemen want to add before we get out?
I was going to say, the bank is always a lot more safe than the mattress or the coffee can. And when you talk about fraud and hacking, the fraud and hacking comes just from word of mouth. People know that you have a large amount of cash on hand, put you in harm's way. So
yeah. We can kind of talk about that a little bit next week when we dive back into the banking and savings as well. As are we better off saving under the mattress, or are we better off saving in a savings account at the bank? So, but until then, we'll be back for you in 2 weeks, same time. Till then, our neutral voices. Peace.